Sunday night is here, and that means only one thing. Scorecard is live on Citi TV. It's been another enthralling week of sports. The CAF Champions League is rolling around really nicely. There's also some under-17 related stuff as far as the AFCON is concerned, so we'll be looking at that as well. And then on the Premier League front, it's heating up. In midweek, we had that game between Manchester City and Arsenal. Big title swinging game there. But today, there was more fireworks. Liverpool were up against Tottenham Hotspur, and it was quite the spectacle. There was a tough game between Aston Villa and Man United as well. A lot to chew on as far as this week in sports is concerned. Let's take a quick break here on Scorecard. When we come back, I'll introduce my gentleman in the studio, and then we'll get today's conversation going. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. My good friends are in here, Coach Christopher Nimley and Susu Graham. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Nice one. Good sporting week so far. City happened. Napoli were planning their party that Ochoa had his own plans about. What's been piquing your interest? Let me start with you, Coach.
For me, Manchester United is getting closer and closer to Champions League football.
Yeah.
Having won the Carabao Cup in the FA Cup final, if Champions League is cemented by Eric Ten Hag, I will be very, very happy because we are coming off, or we came off our worst season in the EPL last season. So for Ten Hag to have done what he's done, I think it's been a very good season. And the sale, we are monitoring. It's a full sale, nothing but a full sale.
I see that
nothing said Jim Ratcliffe 50%, nothing. It's a full sale. So the party who submitted the full sale is Sheikh Jazim Atani, that the thing should be sold to. Sell it to him and let United move forward. So I'm happy. But again, very disappointed that in midweek, Arsenal couldn't step up the way I wanted them to step up. And it's looking most likely that Man City will eventually equal the Man United record of winning the league back to back or 3 times on the trot. But there's another record they have to break. They have to do that twice.
Now you're shifting the goalpost on the record.
First win it 3 times.
Then you win it the second time.
Because Man United is the only team to have won it 3 times on the 1, 2, 3, another 1, 2, 3.
Fair enough. What's caught your attention?
I've been mostly on the NBA playoffs. There's a lot of interesting things happening there. So that's mostly caught my end. One of our young athletes in America broke the national record in the 200 meters as well. That's also very impressive. So it's great. It's great to see the talent.
19.2.
Yeah, I think he was he's the first Ghanaian to run sub 20. Yeah. And we have Asafo Powell saying he thinks Asamati can win a medal at the Olympics/World Championship. So I think we should be paying a bit more attention to the athletics. I think there's some interesting stuff happening there. But for me, mostly it's been the NBA playoffs. And I think Giannis's comments were very interesting. I think I understand where he's
losing as a first seed to a play-in team.
You see, what they failed, let's not get it wrong. But I think he's making a wider point about how a lot of sports fans, if you don't win a trophy or you don't win, it's failure. But I think even though there's no prize for being second, I think sometimes you need there's a bit more. We have to be a bit more nuanced about what is success, what is failure, etc., etc. So I think
I think basically you will be remembered for the trophies you won.
That you won. Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
No, that's why I said I don't disagree with that, but I think he's raising a point that look, there's 20, 30 teams. Only one can win. Being maybe in the top 4, the top 5, or the top 10, wherever, depending on your goals. It depends on the goals you set for yourself. I don't think necessarily not winning is failure in itself, but in their case, they definitely failed. I think they let's not even go into that one, but I think he raised a very interesting point in the way we view sports. So I think it's something we're thinking about.
Journalists and athletes will always differ on these things, but I've been keeping an eye on the playoffs as well. The Knicks lost to the Heat before we came in here. The Warriors are playing the Kings in a Game 7. Very close game there, but let's stay on the beat. Let's get to some under-17 AFCON football, and let's start off with that game between Algeria and Somalia. Now, Algeria started the tournament off in winning fashion, 2-0 clean sheet and 3 points on the board. Let's check the highlights of that one out. So the under-17 AFCON is on. Always a good place to look out for the next generation of superstars. And that's exactly what's on display. Algeria are doing their best to win this one 2-0. Let me start to you, Susu. Good win for the home side. North African teams typically don't do well in tournaments they host.
Yeah, I think the pressure does get to them. But I mean, these young boys, they look very confident. They look like they're enjoying their football. But I think I want to talk about Somalia. I don't think Somalia have made it to a senior AFCON. So seeing them make it on under-17 is a sign of the progress they are making and the potential they have in their nation. I think they are not known for their football on the African continent. But if this generation can give them something to kind of build on and push forward through, we could see them at future AFCON. So I think it's very impressive that Somalia have made it to the tournament. So I think they should get their kudos. But I also want to talk about the fact that Ghana is not there. I think it's a big disappointment. I think as the way we see ourselves as one of the giants on the continent. So it means that there shouldn't be a tournament, a CHAN, and under-17, and under-20, and AFCON where we are not there. If we really hold ourselves to the standard that we are one of the best teams on the continent, we should be represented at every level and in every gender. I think it's very important to say that. So every tournament we miss, it should tell us that either we need to change the way we view ourselves or we need to step up. I think those are the two things.
And just so you know, I mean, for that Ghana ticket that we missed out on, we hosted the Wafu Zone B here, and we lost to Burkina Faso, and then missed out on the competition. So we could have qualified if we had finished top 2, but we didn't finish top 2 in the tournament, and so we ended up missing out on this one. Coach, your quick thoughts on this one?
Look, like he said, anytime a juvenile tournament is held and you don't see the Ghanaian team being there, for me, it takes away the tournament away from me completely.
Because that's the place we've always done well.
Yes, and for me, until the people at the FA acknowledge the new format of qualification, we are going to miss out.
And this is not even just under-17.
Yeah, man.
It happens in the women's
edition as well.
Yep, it happens at the male level.
Apart from the senior level, when I say I'm talking about the Black Stars level, where it is the normal format.
All the age-restricted ones have become
we have to go through Nigeria. We have to go through Burkina Faso. We have to go through
Côte d'Ivoire.
Solid West African nations.
And we have to be honest with CAF. The truth is, it's only fair they do it that way, because I don't think a lot of people, if we had to do it randomly, let's say we draw Madagascar at under-17 level of Comoros, it's a huge expense to fly a whole team to Ghana to play. So I can understand why
I don't think that is the reason for doing so. They just want to give other countries the opportunity to be present at the main
I think that's definitely
because, like you rightly said,
without that, Somalia won't make it. And this is Somalia's first ever appearance at any major tournament.
Yeah. The problem I've got with that is simple. If you want to use that format, then use it across board.
Okay.
Don't pick and choose. Because, yes, if this Somalia team were to qualify for the under-17 tournament, and when it gets to the under-23 and they don't show up, because that format is very different. It's more or less closer to the senior format itself.
But would you also not admit that this is a format that sort of seeks to bring out the best in you? So if you say you are the best in your region, you should be making it to the competition.
It shouldn't be regionally, it should be continentally based.
You mean the qualifiers?
The qualifiers. Because at the end of the day, we want to present our best teams at the Mondial itself. That is what we should be looking at. Africa should not be looking at just taking any country at all to go and represent Africa.
But you see, that's why I
because
think the travel thing comes in. I think it's very difficult for the smaller nations.
No, but we should be able to pay.
But
Come on, man. That cannot be an excuse. A football nation in this money era, you cannot transport your team to any part of the continent.
But travel in Africa is very expensive.
You should be able to pay for the flight. You should be able to pay for the flight. That cannot be an excuse.
Unless because subsidizes it.
If you are saying that because of the issues of money, you should compromise on the standard and the quality at the Mondial. Then it is better we don't show up there. Because, look, previously, we could go to the Mondial, have Ghana, have Nigeria, have Senegal, have Cameroon, all of them present. We know these are the best footballing nation on the continent of Africa. Because the South America, they'll always come with the Brazilians, with the Argentines.
Yep.
They'll always come there. When you go to Europe, they will always bring forth their best countries, no matter the level. So for me, we should look at those that we'll be competing with at the World Cup proper and stop this waffle format, whatever format, Kosafa format, whatever format. What is that? Open it up and let the best, if you say you are the best, if you be able to compete with everybody, so that at the end of the day, as a continent, where we are, because look, if you look at this tournament, I was watching South Africa, Morocco. Before you came, I was watching. If you look at the standard, none of them will pose any. I've seen the Brazilian team, the one that qualified. I've seen the Argentine. Look at the Argentine team. And at the end of the day, none of, you see, we need the Nigerians, the Ghanaians, the Senegalese, the Cameroonians. We are used to beating these guys. But this format will not help any of our teams. And at the end of the day, the quality that Africa will showcase at the World Cup will be very much diluted and will be booted out of the tournament. That is the problem I've got with the format. Because I'm not against any country being there, but go through the most difficult way, so that when you finally show up at the World Cup proper, you'll be in a position to compete.
I would say I don't disagree with Coach in terms of the quality thing, but I think a lot of our FAs don't have the resources to travel at all levels. Even as we've seen our Black Stars, we've had players have to come in at various points to pay.
Look,
and that
we
kind
can
of
share $100,000 per management members.
Coach, I don't
we should be able to pay these things. It is just that
money.
we are not. Look, for example, we've brought in a technical director.
We don't know what he's doing.
Do you know he's been around for close to 3 years? We don't know what. Do you know how much money he's taking at the end of the month?
But I mean,
you see, Coach, I don't disagree
Ghana
with all
supposed
of that.
to be one of the well-endowed nations.
Yeah, and with some
there.
of the things we struggle with some of these things.
It's because of mismanagement.
You see,
we are not managing the resources we've got well. If you can look to the eye of a management member and give him $100,000.
But that's not the World case Cup, for every other country.
After the World Cup, then he says he's resigned. He's resigned. When he's taking $100,000, we should find out why Sami Kufuor has resigned. We should. The FA has gone mute on the matter. Why would one of the best footballing son of this country, who played at the highest level, when he was serving his country to the World Cup, he came back and he's tendered in his resignation, and we've all kept quiet. In Ketia, during the week, go to Sami Kufuor's house and go and find out, Sami, if you cannot talk for us to rectify what the problem in our football is, then we better stop doing football. Because we all saw Sami Kufuor, when he was a footballer, what he stood for, his principles, what he stood for. And I'm sure it is one of those principles that have been flouted. That is why he's tendered in his resignation. Well, the FA cannot go mute on this matter. If you can share money, transport people and let them go and play.
But, Coach, I get all of that. All of that is a given. But I'm saying that even, let's say, some other country, there's not even $100,000 to share. So if they say they need to allocate travel money, maybe they can do it for the national team. But if you have to now do it for under 17, under 20, it can become problematic. I think we have to be fair that the African continent is a very unequal continent, and it's a very large one with a lot of teams. I think all of those things are considered. I think European countries, I think every European FA can afford to send their under 17 team to wherever.
We will be here.
I don't think every African FA can.
My last point will be here. Our teams will go to the Mondial proper, and we'll come back and talk about the quality. Nothing, you do not compromise quality. The moment you start compromising the quality, the standard, then you should forget about being ready to compete.
Let me go through the scores from the other games that were played. So Senegal, they beat Congo by 1-0. Nigeria beat Zambia by 1-0 as well. And then Morocco also beating South Africa by 2-0. So that's what's going on with the under-17 AFCON. Let's get to some other stuff. Let's get to the CAF Champions League quarterfinals that took place over the weekend. With that, we're up against Simba. In the end, Wydad won on penalties in that one. And then there was Mamelodi Sundowns taking on Belouizdad of Algeria. Let's check out back-to-back highlights of those two games. We'll come back and discuss. So you had Wydad progressing to the next round on penalties, and then Mamelodi Sundowns also hanging on to beat Belouizdad. So apologies for the poor quality of the second highlight there. Let me start with you, Susu. Wydad club, I think they've made this competition the mainstay of theirs. If they don't progress far, that is an anomaly. So they are in the semi-final. Sundowns are in the semi-finals as well. This is where we should be aspiring to be.
Oh, of course. And coach even mentioned the fact that Hearts of Oak played with that about 2-3 years ago. Simba went there and lost was 1-0. When Hearts of Oak went there, what did they lose by 6?
I think 6.
Yeah, that should tell you the distance we have to cover. And I think there's a lot of things we can learn from them. You look at the number of people in the stadium. We're complaining about attendances at our grounds. Look at how the stadium was packed. Look at how the fans were excited to see quality football. Look at the pitch. Even just look at the way they move. Look at Sundowns, the goal we saw. Look at the free flow movement, the patterns you are seeing. I think there's a lot we can learn from African football, and it's very high quality. I think part of the reason I think even Ghanaians are not as interested is our teams don't play there, so we are missing out on watching this because
Ghanaians don't care about the Champions League.
Because what's the point?
Yep.
What was the, like we've said this before, the last team to play in the group stage was Brecum Chelsea or Bechem Chelsea, whoever it was.
That was Brecum Chelsea. That was
in,
I think 2013.
That was 2013. Yeah, it's been too long. It's been too long, and that should just tell you because and that's the point I go back to. Our perception of ourselves and what we actually do as a nation in terms of football, it doesn't add up. I think we have to have a serious rethink about our aspirations and the standards we are getting. Because I'm seeing some very good football, and the CAF Champions League is looking very exciting.
Well,
I want to give kudos to Mamelodi Sundowns because they got a big win away. They came and did their business at home, and with that, very solid performance. They were able to keep it, went to penalties, and got the result. I mean, penalties are always very nerve-wracking, but good work by the keeper to save those penalties.
With that, almost 2 decades ago, where in the CAF Champions League with the likes of Accra, Hearts of Oak and Co. Years down the line, this is their 6th consecutive semi-final appearance. 5,
speaks volumes.
Actually.
It speaks volumes of the level of consistency they've exhibited on the continent. And
look at their former coach going to the World Cup and taking Morocco to the semi-final.
Exactly. For these teams, when you go there and you try to find out what the secret is, it starts from the very top.
Yeah.
The people in charge, they have a plan that they are working with, and they know how to execute the plan. And once the execution is put into what, then you see everything falling in place. I am very sad anytime I watch the CAF Champions League and not get a chance to see any of our club side showcase themselves. And I've asked myself, what at all is the reason why we just cannot get there? Then I turn and look at the way our football is being run in this country. I turn and look at the manner in which our teams cannot even afford to keep their best players. Look, Hearts of Oak in the year 2000, Hearts of Oak Kotoko in the year 2004, Ghanaian clubs could dominate the CAF Champions League and the maiden edition of the Confederation Cup because we could keep most of our best players in our league. Currently, as we speak, the next big player in our league is on his way out of this league.
And most of the time, these things are decided even before the second round is played.
And our teams cannot even afford to pay the I don't know the word to even use. The least amount of salary.
Yeah.
If you go elsewhere, if you go to South Africa, you go to all the countries in the north, I don't think there's a player there who takes less than $1,000 a month. Our teams here in Ghana cannot afford to pay $1,000.
Some can't pay 1,000 cedis.
I mean, you see, we are on screen.
Too far.
We are on screen. That's why I am being a bit concerned.
You're diplomatic. Some can't
because
pay
I know how much they pay.
Yeah.
Some don't even pay 500 Ghana.
And
that is less than $100. That is how bad the situation is. And for me, until we fix that, we should forget about having our Kotoko, our Hatsavok, our Adriana compete. Because you ask yourself, why are we playing the league if we are not doing the things that will get our teams to go and rock shoulders with the big boys on the continent of Africa? Look at the quality of football.
And like you're saying,
look at the quality of the pitches.
Like Mosepe came and said, the African Super League, it was kicked against in Europe, but in Africa, look at the prize pool. The prize pool is over 100 million.
Boy.
And if you are winning it, if you get the chance to compete
just
in
playing in it will change your
just competing in it will be a game changer for most clubs. But can our clubs even put up the money to be able to compete?
They can't. And for me, look at our pitches. Look at the quality of referee in our country. Referee them. Look at the decisions that have been taken week in, week out.
To be honest, the low pay is why we have some of these issues with the integrity of the game. Because with all due respect to our referees, they are human beings. If you don't pay them for 9 matches in a row or something like that, and someone approaches them with a certain amount of money,
the people with the most integrity will waive.
They have families to feed. Like, let's be honest. If you are paying up players 500 cedis and someone approaches them with 5,000 or 10,000 cedis, that just go and own goal. It will be very difficult for them to say.
If you look at the quality of the game we watched, look at the pitch. Look at the standard of the football. You put any of our teams in there.
You
minimum 6.
You can tear it down to the very least. Look, talk about pitch. Talk about the jerseys the players are being represented in. Talk about how they carry themselves to the stadium. Everything
is top class.
I have to add one thing. I know it's on a lighter note. Even the scientific approach to the game. We have our players saying because of juju, they won't enter the pitch and they will play 10.
People put flowers behind their ears.
Do you remember that match? Was it Adriana and Kotoko? They played 10 against 10 for 60 minutes.
Whoever gets on the pitch or whoever gets on the pitch 11, what is that?
What to be scientific? I know, come on.
Can you imagine Sundowns coming to Ghana in the Champions League football?
And they say one person would enter the ground because he has been told something by his medicine man.
Everything is so bad.
Look, we are not in the 70s and 60s where if you are traveling to another country, you don't know what's happening. We are past this.
I hope the next FA president will do at least what Samuel Eto'o has done to Cameroonian football.
I mean, introduce a minimum.
We were told by the current FA president, Keto Kreku, that he will introduce a minimum salary cap. Look, don't even give the boys $1,000. If you can say pay them 2,000 Ghana cedi, the minimum pay should be 2,000 Ghana cedi every month.
I think if this is to be enforced, most of our clubs will fold up.
Then they should clear off.
Yep.
Because you see, the level of disgrace is becoming too many. Look, I don't get it.
One thing that I think we need to do is to enforce standards in our league. For instance,
it's as simple as that.
We do this thing with club licensing every year, and with all due respect to everybody who is involved in that club, it's an absolute farce.
It's an absolute joke.
Because every time we do it, we always make concessions and say, oh, you know what, if we want to enforce everything, then we'll have no league. Then so be it. But like Coach is saying, if you're not going to enforce the highest standards, it's 2023. If you're not going to enforce the highest standards, you might as well not participate at all.
It's as simple as that.
You go to a stadium and basic things like washrooms are a problem. Basic things, fans have to stand sometimes 90 minutes in
nowhere to sit, no ambulance, no nothing.
Standing itself is not a problem because there are standing stadiums.
Yes,
like the Dortmund Stadium, for example. But how is that being enforced? How are we looking at the safety? And we've spoken a lot about what happened on May 9th and stuff. What lessons have we learned? Because you can see, and the reason I'm saying this is that the fact that sometimes when a decision goes against a team, the fans can run onto the pitch
and
to assault players and what safety? What kind of?
Because there's all these standards. Inner perimeter, this distance from the pitch, stance, that distance. All these things don't get enforced. I think we need to do better with our football. Honestly, let's take a break here. When we come back, we have some foreign stuff for you. Very goal-packed action from the Premier League as well. So let's get to our first break. When we come back, we'll get into the stuff from Europe. Welcome back to Scorecard here on Citi TV. And it was an eventful game week in the English Premier League. Lots of goals scored. The Ghana boys were in the thick of things as far as the goals were concerned. Let's get to the highlights of Crystal Palace versus West Ham. 7-goal thriller in that particular one. And then we'll get to Fulham versus Manchester City as well. Fulham fought hard, but in the end, Manchester City had too much firepower. That win took them to the top of the table. Check out the two highlights. We'll come back and discuss. So Crystal Palace under Roy Hodgson stabilizing their season. They won't be thinking about relegation too much now, but I want to talk about the Ghana boys. Coach, just quick thoughts on Jordan first of all. What has changed? All of a sudden, he has 3 goals in 5 under Roy Hodgson already. More than he got under Patrick Vieira in almost a season and a half.
Yeah, I think it's about Jordan himself. How can you be a forward and not give yourself goal-scoring targets? And you are happy when you are described as a striker who works for the team.
Backtracking,
defensive-oriented, midfield dynamo.
I think he's drawn the 2nd or 3rd most fouls in the Premier League.
No, that's what I'm saying. That
you
cannot.
He's winning free
You
kicks.
cannot be a forward.
They say he has 6 goals in 96 games.
Can you imagine?
Okay, let's forget about
4 in 5.
Let's forget about the 91 before and focus on the 5.
No, you see,
let's focus.
This
on the
is
5.
what we should be saying about him, week in, week out. At least every 2 to 3 weeks, we should be coming and describing goals that Jordan Ayew has scored. I've always said that, for all you know, it is because of his mentality.
Yeah, because
that is why
I've always
it has
maintained
become.
that he's never been a bad player.
Yes.
Technically, he's always been gifted.
I don't even think he's a bad player now. I just think that the production is not enough.
Yeah.
I can agree the production is not enough, but I think he's still a good player.
For somebody who we all thought would take over from Asamoah Gyan, massively he's been a disappointment.
I can agree with that.
Massively. Because look, when he came, I said, wow, if this boy can add goal scoring to his game, we've gotten our next number 9.
Yeah.
But he's happy when he's described as a player who works for the team.
Yeah.
He tracks back, he tackles, he does that. There's no
striker. That should not be your forte.
You see Erling Haaland, he only comes back to help the team when they have to defend set piece. The next moment he's in the box of the opponent, putting the ball in the back of the net. That is the sort of
I like what you said in the beginning, that Jordan needs to set goal-scoring targets for himself.
You see, that is, I wish I was the one, if I was closer to him. Look, you don't score less than 12 goals in 38 games if you say you are a striker. Or if you say you are a forward. How many goals have Zaha scored?
I would disagree with you on that.
No, you can't disagree.
The reason I'm saying that is if you are playing for a certain team, I don't think in Crystal Palace, the West Ham, like the teams in that part of the table, usually more than one player will score 10 or 15 goals.
How many goals has Zaha scored?
You get what I'm saying? I think
I need to check that and get back.
Yeah, so I think Zaha has maybe like 11 or 10.
If he set a 12 goals target, I didn't say 20 plus or 15.
No, but I'm saying that
I said 12.
I said, coach,
if you score 10.
You think that's an overkill for somebody who plays for Palace?
The reason I'm saying that is that if you look at those teams, by the end of the season, they have scored maybe 40, 45 goals.
I understand. So I'm coming.
It's very rare that you alone will score quarter, another person will score quarter.
I'm coming. So I said that should be his
Zaha
target.
has 7 Premier League goals this season.
That should be his target. So if you set a 12-goal target, and at the end of the season,
it doesn't work out, you can finish with 10 or 8.
You score 10, you score 7. We'll take it. Because he's hardly the main man. He's usually comes from the flank. But there should be goal scoring responsibility attached to your target.
And I will kind of agree with what Susu said a bit, because I spoke to George Boateng about this same Jordan lack of scoring thing. And again, he also said that, you know what, look, in Palace, you don't get a lot of chances. You might get what? 2 clear-cut chances all game, and that might not fall to Jordan because you are not the main guy.
Do you know why it doesn't fall to him?
Why?
You are also saying that he doesn't have the attitude
His
to go and
movement
search.
at times have been very, very bad. Look at the goal he scored yesterday. Proper movement. He's not, you see, there are times where I look at Crystal Palace play, he's on the right, Zaha is on the left. When the ball is coming from the left, instead of him to be diagonally moving into the box, he's still standing out wide. Who scores goal when you are out wide? The moment the ball is opposite your flank, you diagonally move.
And if you look at the goals he scored under Hudson, even the last 3 weeks,
it has been like that.
Yep. Cuts inside. He looks very direct when he's getting into the box. So I'm just surprised. For me, I'm just shocked about what has changed in the last couple of weeks.
For me, he should define his game. He cannot be running around like that. It has to stop.
But coach, don't you think it's too late? He's what, 31 now?
That is why now he cannot be running around. If you are growing old, you need to refine your game to be of good use.
Because you don't even have the legs anymore.
To be going around bad. So for me, I like what he's doing. This is what I want to see him do.
Eventually, the backtracking defensive
will have to stop.
Thing will have to stop.
Will have to stop.
One has to stop.
So that you focus on being a forward, proper forward. For Jeffrey Schlupp, look, he's been one of our most consistent players in the EPL.
I think he has the same number of goals as Jordan.
Yes, for years. But yet still, the people at the FA, Keto Kriku and his people, Otoado and his people, when we're going to the World Cup, they say they didn't see him good enough to be part of that team. He has been doing this.
Yeah, he was living that decision.
Regularly, week in, week out. He is this good. Put him in there and let us benefit. So Chris Hughton, look, try and go and talk to these guys.
Yeah.
We need every good Ghanaian player to be in our team.
True.
Next year, AFCON will be 43, 44 years since we won the AFCON.
Yeah.
It has to stop.
Unless you can prove that the player are not selecting, it's going to be bad for team spirit or something. I don't think there's any reason. Unless you can you can explicitly come and say that.
Schlupp is not good for chemistry.
He's not good. Yeah,
why would Jeffrey Schlupp cause problem when he's
I'm just saying that's the only reason we want to hear.
Everybody knows.
Aside that,
very calm,
the person should come.
Yeah. He flows with everybody.
And I agree with Coach on the targets thing. That I think that even though you are doing good things, if you're a forward, you should be making that kind of impact.
Yeah.
Like Coach said, he said he's fair. Maybe
what
aim for 12, and if you
him?
get 6, it's fine.
What has changed?
Well, for one thing, he's been playing through the middle recently. If you notice, Hudson has actually, we are not seeing Mateta, we are not seeing Edward. It's Jordan.
Hudson actually likes Jordan.
He's been playing Jordan. And if you remember, when he first joined Palace the first time, didn't he score 11 goals?
He was Palace's top scorer of the season. He was player of the season.
Yeah, he scored 11 goals that season.
Him. But you cannot go 92, 96 games and score at least 6 goals.
Exactly. So he's playing through the middle now. I guess maybe there's more responsibility on it. I think Hudson said, look, we are looking at.
He took off his shirt when he scored that goal. Was it 12 minutes?
I want to.
Somebody said,
look, it was a good goal. Truth be told, his off the ball movement.
What was that all about? Is it
I have
because
to assume that maybe something had happened in his personal life.
Yeah, because he looked really emotional.
Yeah, exactly.
When he scored that goal.
Exactly.
I have seen him virtually
cry
when he scored for the Black Star.
And he said a lot of that was because of, one, I think his granddad had died, and two, he felt that there was a lot of pressure from Ghanaians to deliver.
We need him to score and score regularly. Stop running around. Jordan this, Jordan that.
If he was scoring, I don't think there'll be pressure on him.
Yes.
I think people want him to succeed.
Yes.
I think, and part of the reason there's pressure on him, they feel like you are a forward, you are coming, you are not scoring, you are not assisting. And that's the thing. I see good things in Jordan's game. You can see he moves the ball, he keeps it well. Sometimes when we're under pressure and they clear the ball, he gets it, win the foul, relieve pressure. Those things are important. They are good. But if you are doing just that and you are not scoring, you are not assisting, it's difficult.
Because those are your primary functions.
Yeah, exactly. It's difficult to say that someone who's on the bench, who will score an assist, should sit on the bench for you to win free kicks high up the pitch.
Those of us who were close to Asamoah Gyan, let me tell you something, that the baby jet virtually was always disappointed anytime he plays for the Black Star and he doesn't score.
Yep. I think that is a striker.
He was always not happy.
Haven't you heard Haaland say, I could have scored 6? Yes. When he scores 3 and things.
That is why when you see Asamoah Gyan playing those days, when he gets, Papa, he doesn't dwell on the ball.
I really love this point. Again,
I'm telling you.
One of the reasons why I think Jordan doesn't score enough goals, I think he's just not aggressive enough for goals. Yes. He's not hungry enough.
You think it's okay if he doesn't score?
He's okay contributing. He's the kind of guy who's okay contributing to the game and then moving it on from that level. But we'll see how it happens. Let's get to some other highlights. Let's get to that game between Man United and Aston Villa. Hard-fought victory for United. And then there was another thriller, a really chaotic one between Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool Football Club. So back-to-back highlights. Let's check those out. That Liverpool-Spurs game is as chaotic as it gets, but we'll put that one in the back burner. We'll come to that in a bit. Let's talk about United. Villa, coach, let me start with you. United are looking to seal off that top 4 spots. Liverpool are attempting to mount a late comeback, but the point gap is so large, I would be shocked if United let this slip. But this was a difficult game.
It was very difficult. And in fact, I did say on radio that I will not be surprised if it ends in the draw, because Unai Emery has done a fantastic job. Until they lost today, they had gone 10 games without a loss. They had won 8 and had drawn 2. And if you look at the way Villa tends to play their football, they play with, is it McGinn? McGinn, and then this boy, Ramsdale, as the left-sided wingers. But they are more or less like a diamond. Yeah. Because those guys are not natural wingers. They are 2 central midfielders. So they always tend to come in and make it a bit more congested. They haven't played wide
until Emery decided that that's where they
play. That's where they'll play. So they more or less come in and make it a very congested midfield, diamond type of midfield. Don't forget, they've gotten, or they have a workaholic in Oli Watkins, who will embarrass any defender physically, technically, speed, intensity. So for United to get the result, they needed to tweak some form of formation. And I was happy when I saw, of course, I saw Casemiro alongside Eriksen, Sabitzer, and then Bruno Fernandes. So which means that Eric Ten Hag tactically had to sacrifice Anthony or Jadon Sancho. He decided to sacrifice Anthony because he's done lots of running of late and started with Marcus Rashford up front. If you watch the game, Aston Villa, look, they've been properly drilled. The manner in which they tend to play that high line and the uniformity and the understanding of the back 4.
The offside trap.
It was superbly set. And I kept asking myself, you've been properly drilled on these things. Yeah. But at this level, if you keep doing that, the opponent will at least find one pass through the middle, and that will cost you. And I understand they were caught unawares because it was not actually a pass. From a direct goal kick, Minks and his defensive partner went to sleep. And therefore, when Casemiro headed the ball, Radford had timed his run. So at that moment, United were not in possession for them to press high up the pitch. It was a direct overturn from the overkick, and then Rashford found himself through on goal. And, of course, Bruno Fernandes, credit must be given to him because if you look at the distance he had to cover and to even anticipate that, look, there could be a rebound, there could be a punch from the goalkeeper that could bring him on board. You want to credit him. A player who last week by this time was started to be injured in the FA Cup semi-finals, played on Thursday, came again and led Manchester United as captain of the day.
I feel like his dedication goes under the radar a lot.
From the very day, always doing his arms.
People tend to overlook it, but from the very day he became a United player, 3.5 seasons ago, he's been a
3.5 seasons already.
Yeah, he was bought in January.
And let's give Bruno Fernandes credit that until Cristiano Ronaldo came, he was clearly United's best player. And there was an argument that he was on the same level, if not better than Kevin De Bruyne. I know you remember we had this was
especially in his first season
because of how often he was scoring assists. This was definitely a debate we were having, whether him and Kevin De Bruyne, who is better. That was the level he was playing. I think
he was not only scoring at the time; he was assisting.
He was in double digits in assist and goals.
Exactly, he was the team. If you remember those times, if you don't have Bruno Fernandes in your fantasy, you are not going anywhere.
Of course, and for me, look. United had to win today to tell everybody that top 4 is secure. Today was their 32nd game.
Yes.
United have 6 games to play.
I think this was
3 home.
Villa's 34th.
Yes, 34th. 3 home, 3 away. The home games will all be wrapped up, and Champions League football will be secure.
Let's talk about Spurs Liverpool. We'll have to take a break quickly, but just talk to me about Liverpool. I mean, going 3 goals up and then completely losing it mentally, allowing Spurs back into this game before getting a fictitious goal to finish this off. you want to make Europe, you can't afford to be making these slips.
Yeah, I think they were a bit complacent. But I think it's more so they got... I think I would rather say it's rather on Spurs, because I think Spurs were so lackadaisical and so lacking in spirit in the first 15, 20 minutes that Liverpool thought the game was easier than it should be. I think it made them start to underestimate who they were playing. Because if you watch the second half of the first half and the second half, Spurs had better chances. I think Liverpool did not turn up mostly in the second half. In fact, if Lucas Moura doesn't make that horrible back pass, we'd be talking about how
Liverpool
maybe Spurs should have won this game. No, I would have been saying maybe Spurs, because it wasn't showing the highlights, but Son hit the post twice.
And
I think Romero also hit the woodwork. So it's not like Spurs were not coming close. They were really putting pressure. They were pushing for it. So I think Liverpool got the hot start. And the truth is, how often do you score 3 goals at home and not win? I think more often than not, if you're a team and you score 3 goals at home, you get the result. So I think when you score them that early, I think they got lulled into a false sense of security. They got a bit complacent, but they got away with it. But I think the truth is, Liverpool will not lose many home games. The home games are not the issue. But if they play like that away, they will lose. Because I think teams are less forgiving when they are at home and they go down. I think that's even what gave Spurs the momentum midweek against United. They went down 2 goals. They were at home and said, we can't let this happen to us at home. And to go back to Spurs, I think that's a problem they have. That unless they are kind of poked, unless they are kind of slapped, they don't wake up. Because we've seen it, and this has not been a Ryan Mason or Christian.
It's been throughout the season.
It's been throughout the season. You can't go anywhere if you can only remember that you need to score a goal when they score you.
And then maybe, I don't know whether you go to the break. There's something I want to say on the Liverpool.
Let me just go for the break and come back, and then we'll just expand this conversation a lot more. We'll talk a lot more about the Liverpool Spurs. Liverpool have made tactical tweaks. I was talking about Jurgen Klopp never ever changing his tactics. Let's take a break. We'll come back, and then we'll continue the conversation. Welcome back. This is Scorecard here on Citi TV. We're discussing Liverpool Spurs. Coach, tactical tweaks. From 4-3-3 to finally something different.
Yes, to finally something different, but different not being done in the proper way. That is what the issue is. You see, Pep Guardiola did something, and almost every modern manager is trying to mimic whatever he did. But he does that regularly, and his teams are used to it.
Okay.
What does he do? He actually tends to ask one of his fullbacks, usually until recently, the right fullback has been the one to move into midfield, or one of his centre backs to move into midfield. But anytime he does that, the defensive shape becomes a back 3. So currently, anytime he asks John Stones to step into midfield, he's kept Diaz, he's kept Akanji, and he's kept Aki as the back 3 in position. Unlike the way he does his, the one that Jurgen Klopp is doing with Alexander-Arnold is a back 2. And I looked at it before the game, and I told myself that, look, if I was the head coach of Spurs, I will wait. The moment Alexander moves into midfield, that will be the gap we will exploit, because Klopp is not using a back 3. He's also asking Robertson to go forward. And therefore, Konate covering Alexander-Arnold, and then Van Dijk covering Robertson. But because Arnold is not bumping forward on the touchline and rather moving infield, there's a huge gap there. And therefore, if you look at the first goal that Spurs scored, when they won the ball, it was a one-time pass through the middle. And that actually drew Van Dijk out of position. And if you look at the manner what Perisic did to Van Dijk, we all saw it on the clip.
Top speed.
He was running at top because the gap was huge, and he needed to close the gap.
To add to that, Konate was watching Son, because Son usually plays on the left.
Exactly.
And Son had come inside.
So Konate
followed Son, and Perisic just went.
Yes.
So that's where Harvey Elliott should have. But Harvey Elliott, we've seen this a lot with him. When he plays, he's not
defensively. He will not add anything.
And we said it before on radio that
that's right.
That Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones,
Fabinho
will have to do a lot of running to cover, because those two are not. So if Henderson was playing, maybe Henderson is a bit more aware. And he Perisic.
That's it.
Because of that, so that was really where they could have lost it. If you notice, second goal, Son is very free. Again,
Alexander-Arnold went to sleep. Konate went. So you see, it is good to tweak.
Yeah.
But of course, again, against the quality opposition, he can't do that because Spurs really did expose that aspect of asking Arnold to move into midfield and not doing a back three.
I think it will work. It won't work as well with teams that play a back four.
Exactly.
That is what I think will work for them because I think a team that plays a back three, where Son is what the normal winger will do. So Konate will just follow Son, and that fullback is not as committed to running for it.
Exactly.
Because I think them playing a back three, they decided that okay, we'll go 1-on-1 versus Salah, Gakpo, and who started on the left? Diaz. Yes, exactly. We'll go 1-on-1. And if you saw in the first half, they're going 1-on-1. It didn't work. That's part of the reason they gave away so many goals. So I think a team with a back four will be less ambitious with their runners. So Liverpool gets away with it because most teams play a back four.
That's right.
But they'll get away with it again. But I think part of it's also trying to make a mid-season tweak like that. Yeah. It's quite difficult. So it takes time to kind of figure it out.
During the preseason, they will practice it a bit more. But I'm very of the view that if he's really going to do that, then he has to be a back three anytime he asks. Because even look at Ten Hag. Anytime he asks Wan-Bissaka or Malacia or whoever, there's a back three.
I'm more surprised he doesn't ask Fabinho to drop
in the middle of the two centre backs. In
between Van Dijk and Konate. That makes more sense to me. And
because Fabinho is actually even comfortable playing centre half sometimes.
Yes.
That would have made, or that would have been a clearer picture, or the most easiest way to do it. But because it is not as a result of the transition, you see, when they are transiting, they may not feel the impact of that.
Yeah.
But the moment the transition is done and Fabinho moves into midfield, once you transit, he has to move into midfield to play with Alexander like John Stones normally does. So when you are doing that, that is where, if Arnold is the one going to step in, then you need to restrict Robertson from going forward so that when Konate shifts and Van Dijk shifts, Robertson will also shift and make it a back three.
I think part of it too is also Elliott and Salah were a bit too high. Because Elliott, the truth is, Elliott is more of a winger number 10 type. So him playing in midfield is just a way that, okay, we can see this guy is talented.
Yeah,
he has to play.
Like has to bodies in the middle, but doesn't really do a lot of defensive work.
And that's where I think you would need a new midfielder who's a bit more comfortable, kind of dropping deeper and helping with the defense. Because I think Elliott is Salah's long-term replacement, in my opinion. I think that's where his future. I don't think his future is in midfield.
No, I rather think he would do better in midfield when he's got two DMs behind him and he's playing in the pocket.
Yeah.
Because he's not the very pacey player.
And he's not a great dribbler either.
But when you put him out wide,
we've seen players
he
like
may not
Mahrez
be able to
who are
outrun.
not too quick.
No, but he may not be able to.
More silky.
Mahrez is more skillful.
He's more.
Elliott is not as skillful.
No, but you see, Elliott is what, 20, 21?
Yeah, but
I think he can still add some dimension.
You're banking on a lot of improvement.
Don't get me wrong. I get what coach is saying, but if there's two DMs behind,
if there's two DMs and he's in the pocket,
and that's more of a number 10, which is still a bit of a forward. But for me, if he's supposed to play as a midfielder in a 4-3-3, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. You rather stick him out on the right.
I think playing him wide is a better option.
Let me read some of your messages that have been coming through. This one says, good night, good evening to Ben and your pundits. A deserved win against Aston Villa from Ten Hag and his players. We will surely play Champions League matches next season. Manaman says so from Doma Hinkro. This one's from St. Godfred inside Sefi. Kwarase Chrome, I think that's what it says. It says that, good evening to the team, especially coach. All my teams have won games this weekend. Gradually, our Man United is coming back. Hey, United fans. Oh, man, the world is definitely noisier when these people start winning matches again. This one here says, Ghana football is dead, so we have to bring back the love. Napoleon in Tumu, Sankofa from that one. With that one. This one says, so who is buying Man United? Good evening to you guys. Greetings to Coach Samson from Sogakope with that one. This one is from Frimpong from Koforidia. Says, good evening, Ben. I love viewing the show because of your fearless presentations from your panelists. Ghana is not part of anything. The sports politicians should kindly stop making the innocent Ghanaian think that Ghana is a football nation. I really disagree with these false fantasies. This one is interesting. Sally Al-Hassan from Brekum says that Palace had 27 points when Chelsea were 1 point away from 40. Now they have 40 points and Chelsea have 39. It's crazier when you think about it like that. Somebody's just making a really interesting point.
They have the same points as Bournemouth.
Yep.
It's true. It's
Yep.
true. It's true.
Yep. Chelsea were 13
And
yesterday when I was done.
I have to be very honest. Speaking of Chelsea and Bournemouth being on the same points, I think Gary O'Neill has done a very good job. Because remembering him taking over after the 9-0, we talking about their squad.
They've literally jump-started their season.
And I'll say right now, when I compare their squad to the other squads
always said
in the relegation zone, they shouldn't be as far ahead as they are. But that's coaching for you.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because this guy would now have gotten his chance if Scott Parker didn't throw in a tantrum. Literally. And I think he's on to bigger and better things very soon. I think he'll keep them up.
They'll have to back him in the
They'll have to back him. But they got new owner. I think part of the reason the board didn't want to spend is they were planning to sell their club. So when the new owner came in January, remember he bought Utara, he bought Semenyo, Traore, exactly. So I think the new owner is a bit more willing to spend.
Let's see how that goes.
Let's see how it goes.
Kofi Supremo from Koforidua says the only reason Chelsea didn't lose today is because they didn't play a match today. Chelsea are just addicted to losing. Chelsea fans are really going to it. Remember, you have a big game against Arsenal in midweek. That should be a cracker. Halifax from Kumasi Ebuakwa says that people should understand Liverpool didn't want the game to be boring today. So we had to make Spurs equalize and then break their hearts in the end. Didn't you enjoy the game? Are you asking me? He's asking me if I didn't enjoy
Very
the game.
sarcastic way.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about. Let's get to the Italian Serie A and let's check out some action from there that happened this weekend. Inter Milan were up against Lazio. They made light work of Lazio. Quick 3-1 is how they won that one. There was a big game. Jose Mourinho's AS Roma were up against AC Milan. That game ended in a draw as well. Let's check out the highlights from those two games. So Inter Milan now taking the season a lot more seriously now that Juventus have their 15 points back temporarily. The dynamics of the table have changed a little. Napoli, though, they were up against Salernitana. We don't have those highlights. They were expecting to win that game to be able to set up their championship celebration. Remember, they had their champagne frozen. They had their T-shirts, their banners and everything.
They asked their game to be postponed to today because they wanted Lazio to play first. Because if Lazio lost, it would mean that when they win, they are champions.
Yeah.
So they asked the game to be postponed so they'll play after Lazio so that they know.
All that.
Look,
they've just postponed it by a week or two.
They
will definitely win that. They are already champions.
People's champagnes are suffering in the fridge.
That's the thing. They wanted to win it at the Sao Paulo and
now maybe next week they'll go and win away, but they will come and celebrate the following week. At the,
but I think the moment it happens is too emotional.
But
I think they should go and play the under-18s and lose.
The Juve's 15 points restoration has, I think, as a result of that, the two Milan clubs, as we speak, are not in the Champions League zone. And that is massive.
In fact, when I look at the table now, so Napoli top the table, 79 points. Lazio are second
61.
On 61. Juventus are third on 60. Inter are fourth on 57. But Inter are level on points with AC Milan. And then, in fact, Inter, AC Milan, and Roma all have 57 points.
There you go.
But in Atalanta also coming.
So there's everything.
Atalanta have 55 points as well.
From the fourth spots. There's everything to play for. I think, Lizzie, this is what we want to see. The Italian teams have done superbly this season. In Europe, they are guaranteed to be in the Champions League final. If you go to the Europa Cup, there's Roma.
Roma is on one side of the draw. Juventus is on
another
one side.
Of
so Roma and Juventus could meet in the final.
If you go to the Conference League, there's Fiorentina, who's also in the semi-final.
And this is part of the problem the teams are having because right now, if an Italian team was to win the Champions League and the Europa League, and both those winners finish outside the top four, it means that if you are fourth, you won't go to the Champions League. The places will be taken because they've decided that the group stage limit is 5 per country. So you have to also
if they win the Europa, automatically whoever wins the Europa will
go. And the Champions League winners will also go. So right now, it's not even just finished top 4. The only way you are assured a Champions League place is top 3.
Top 3.
So it's Napoli who are going. So now Lazio, Inter, and
the
whoever
rest
have to make sure they're in the top 3 because if one of them goes on to win the Europa League or the Champions League, both win the Europa League and the Champions League, and you are fourth, therefore doesn't matter.
No tournament for you then.
So for Lazio especially, Lazio have to make sure they hold on to second because they are no longer in Europe.
Yeah, they are no longer in Europe.
But Roma and Juventus, I think one of them is very likely to win the Europa League. Yeah, so I think that becomes the thing. I think the Champions League, if we are being honest, is between Man City and Real Madrid. I think the winner of that will win
eventually
end up winning. But then again, it's a final, so anything can happen. But I think on paper, we expect Madrid or Man City to win the Champions League.
Let's get to Germany and let's get to the Bundesliga. Talk about Borussia Dortmund. Remember, we were just talking about them last week about how we were unsure about their title credentials, if they could hold the fort at the top of the table and eventually win the title. They couldn't. So they were up against Bochum this weekend, eventually ended up drawing a result which has cost them their spot at the top because Bayern were winners this weekend. Let's get to the highlights of Dortmund and Bochum. So Dortmund, they've given up the lead. You were talking about them not being a team you can repose confidence in. It looks like they were listening to you.
You know the worst part about this? Bochum are 16th. So if you understand the Bundesliga system, two teams get automatically relegated.
Then there's a playoff.
And there's a playoff between 3rd in the Bundesliga 2 and 16th in the Bundesliga. After this weekend, Bochum are 16th. That should tell you that this is not a team that they should have even sweat. There should have been no sweat. They should have come, done their work, and gone home.
Yeah.
If you want to win the title, these are the teams you beat. And that's why we are so critical of Arsenal playing against Southampton and not getting the win. Because I always say, at the very least, if you beat the worst 15 teams, home and away, let's even say the worst
12-13.
The worst 12-13 home and away. That's more than half the points you get for the season.
Exactly.
That's where your points are won. Your points are not won by beating
the top 6 or top 4.
You can lose every game to the top 6 away. You can lose every game to the top 6 away. That's only minus 15. That's still 99 points to be won in a season if you do that in a 38-game competition. So that's why these are the points that win titles. It's not beating Bayern. Because they lost to Bayern home and away, and they were still on course to win the title.
They were on top of the league.
Yeah, they were on course, and now there's 4 games left.
Is this inexperience? Because if you look at the Dortmund side, pretty young team. Schlotterbeck, young defender brought in this season. Mukoko, Adeyemi.
I think to some extent.
Daniel Malen is a little old, but Dortmund's average age should be hovering around 23, 24.
To some extent, you can say it's inexperience. But at the end of the day,
they've had too many games like this.
You've had Bayern Munich win this league 10 straight times.
Yeah. There should be some fire in your belly to be able to end it.
Come on, man. This has to stop. Because the least expected, you ask us, what are they playing for?
Yeah, the chief of
you
the
should be
farmers
playing
leagues.
to put an end to that.
And look at what happened when Juventus, it put a fire in Inter Milan's belly. They won.
Yes.
The next season, AC Milan have the fire in their belly. Now
This
Napoli
Napoli is also going to win.
That's how it should be. Every team should feel.
Has won the league 10 years. I don't get it.
The truth is,
Most likely to be 11.
the truth
La
is,
Decima, is that how they call it?
Yeah, 10 is La Decima, so only Decima would be.
the truth is, the other teams competing with Bayern, they don't have the financial muscle and that kind of stuff. But the fact is, you see Bayern faltering. They've changed their manager. You get on top. And I would have felt at least a bit better if you lost to a team, let's say, challenging for the Champions League.
Like Leipzig and those
you
people.
lose to a team that's around your level theoretically, but that's where you draw points. It's a bit more palatable. And I'm sorry to keep referencing Arsenal, but that's why the Southampton game felt like a defeat, even though they didn't lose. Because you're playing to the team that's last on the table.
They haven't won a game in God
Why
knows
do you
how
lose
long.
points?
Yep.
You are playing against Bochum, who are in a relegation dogfight, and you draw points. But Bayern played Hertha Berlin, who are last. They struggled to get the goal at first. The goal came a bit late, but in the end, they got a solid 2-0 victory. That's what you do against teams who are in that position. And that's I'm actually sad because I felt that if you are dropping points, drop points against a team that is
worth dropping points.
Worth dropping points against.
Exactly.
Well, I think you should look out for Bayer Leverkusen next season. They are doing pretty well in the league this season, not as well as they would want to. Xabi Alonso is cooking something with that team. They have quite a good young core.
Provided they keep him, though.
Yeah.
Because we are hearing
the big
that
boys are already hovering around him already. So
I think it will be too soon, but
we'll see how that plays out. Let's finish off with highlights from the Spanish La Liga. Real Madrid were up against Almeria. Real Madrid have had a topsy-turvy La Liga season. Win one day, draw the other, lose heavily the next day. This was a victory for them. 4-2 they won. Barca also were up against Betis. Also took care of business at home. Back-to-back highlights for those two games. Good to see Ansu Fati scoring for Barcelona and away from the physio's table. Barca look like they are going to run away with the title as things stand now. The goal scorers race or the goal king chart for the Pichichi is what is looking a lot more competitive. Now, it's 19 for Lewandowski and 17 for Benzema. But let it be known that Lewandowski's played 11 games more than Benzema this season. Guys, just quick thoughts to wrap it up. Real Madrid not doing so well in the La Liga, but they look like they have their eyes fixed on the Champions League title rather this season.
Yeah, they are 11 points behind Barcelona. There's no way they're catching them. So I think everything is on Man City. You can even see them when from their body language. Yeah. They don't want to be playing in the La Liga. They are waiting for the Champions League.
Saving their legs for the Champions League. Just final thoughts before we go.
I think there's a lot of talent in that Real Madrid team. I think when you see Rodrigo and Vinicius, two players who are under 25, having the impact they're having. Because if you look at Benzema's goals, if you have been honest, you give those goals to most competent strikers. They score those goals because of the hard work of those young guys. So I think Real Madrid's future is in very good hands.
Florentino Perez
and we didn't even talk about Camavinga today. So I think their future is in very good hands. And it will be interesting to see what happens when they add Endrick. Who else they might buy? Maybe Mbappe.
They need a proper number 9.
I feel like Florentino Perez missed out on Neymar to Barcelona.
And he said he never miss on a Brazilian.
Never again will I miss out on a Brazilian top-level talent.
And I think they should be looking at getting a number 9. Benzema is 35, 36 years. He's not going to be in a row. I think he has another year.
Mbappe.
The difficulty is the backup. Because it would be difficult to get a top number 9.
Who is willing to come and play backup?
And I think no. See, they should be thinking about he's fading.
Yeah,
he's going to fade. So
it will depend on how Benzema himself.
He's captain right now, Real Madrid captain now. There's still,
always complex.
Captains are difficult to
He's
draw.
a politician in the dressing room now, like we always like to say. But thank you very much, Coach. Thank you, Susu Graham, and thank you for your messages out there. Thank you for all of you who made time to view the show. The show will be up on YouTube, so do look out for that as well. My name is Benjamin Nketia. Been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Next week, same time, we'll be here on Scorecard.